I do want to get to Terrence. You had another quick hit that we wanted to talk about, where what is it like to sit courtside via VR?
Yeah. So, one of my gripes with VR is it's still kind of gimmicky, in my opinion. Now, I'm pretty sure there's all kind of use cases and people enjoy it and exercise and whatever the case may be. But I still, for the price of the headset, which is comparable, maybe pay a couple more bucks for real game console with much more functionality. It's like it's a lot of money to only still after what 5 years maybe still only have like a little bit of use out of something like that. One of the things that I thought was interesting, but nobody's ever really talked about it, was to be able to use VR, virtual reality headset, and sit like courtside via a basketball game or a football game or at a major concert. Never really talked about it. NBA did a little bit of something prior to, and what I mean prior to is prior to COVID. Then COVID hit, but they never really still talked about it. And then I was on my other podcast with Snob OS Cast with Nika Monfort, and we were doing our tech predictions. And one of my predictions was, Apple, since we're Apple snobs on the show, is Apple is not going to do a VR headset. It's one of my hot takes. All rumors point to they're doing one, but I don't think so. But Nika countered with, well, maybe the reason why VR is not going that far is because Apple's not in it. Once Apple gets into it, and then other things like the NBA, the NFL, Live Nation, sports, what's the Ticketmaster, all these other venues, all these other services may start to offer an VR experience. And then after that, just doing research for this show, I came across a story to where a CNBC sports journalist was sent a VR headset and did like the NBA courtside experience with like a Celtics and a Pacers game. And he pretty much just kind of goes over his experience. And me just reading through the experience, it's like that's what would convince me to get a headset, because one, I ain't trying to go outside like that because, I got kids, COVID, all that stuff, so I'm trying to stay as safe as possible, but I am catching cabin fever in a sense that there are some things that I want to do. And it's like, all right, well, there's got to be a happy medium. And, just him going through some of these points as to his experience with going through sitting, quote unquote, courtside using an Oculus Meta, I think it's called Oculus Quest 2 device. It's $299, $300. And he actually goes through the process of sitting through this actual live game. He kind of talked about how, there was only like a handful of people. Oculus has been out forever. VR has been out for a while. This NBA courtside experience has been out for at least a year or two. And once you put it on before the game, you kind of sit in a lobby and it's like a handful of people, like 15, 20 people. And you can kind of talk to them as you're in this lobby waiting for the game to start. When the game starts, then you go down and you can actually sit courtside. He said the experience was dope. The only issues he had was you can interact with the other people that have this live experience. Like you can talk to them about the game, kind of like you would as you were sitting courtside, sitting next to a stranger. But the problem is if they've got, I thought this was funny. If they have a bad connection, you can kind of see them and they're kind of wigging out like they're having a seizure.
Well, that was the thing. That was one of the things I wrote in. I wrote a note about. I agree with you that this was the first quote unquote metaverse example that makes sense to me.
Right.
But now what Nika said, what you just said, Nika said actually makes a lot of sense as well. As far as I don't think a lot of these companies are really going to get on board and do this right until Apple is involved. Honestly,
right.
Apple leads these trends. People, Facebook/Meta doesn't have the best track record with people's privacy and PR and everything else. So I don't think that many people would even want to get in bed with Meta. I mean, they have the captive audience with 3 billion users or whatever. But, I think once Apple gets involved, you're going to see this whole game change real quick. But the idea that the avatar sort of conks out if your connection isn't great, I was wondering, like, what happens if somebody is wearing a headset and they do have some legitimate physical ailment? and like
Right.
maybe they're at home by themselves and they pass out, or they
Right.
have a heart attack, God forbid, or something like that. Like, what happens to their avatar, and would somebody in the VR space with them be able to tell that they were in distress and be
Right.
able to like call somebody or something? I don't think anybody's even thought about that possibility, but when he said it looked like this avatar had a seizure, and I was like, what if he did have a seizure? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what would happen? So that's just a whole nother, thread or tangent I kind of went on, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle that in
Right.
I
as
can
we go
see
forward.
that absolutely happening because I know that there have been game streamers, particularly on Twitch. It probably has happened on other platforms, but I know that there have been Twitch streamers that have had medical issues while they are actually streaming, and their community are the ones who alerted the authorities.
Right.
It's like, hey, I think this, this person is having something, going on. So I remember reading stories about that on multiple occasions. I know that it also happens quite often in like Japan, where you have people there that they're trying to do like stream for like 36 hours, 48 hours straight.
Right.
So they just literally they're
But
giving
you can
themselves.
see them though, right?
Yeah.
You can see that person.
You can see the person.
Yeah.
So I could see this just being an extenuation from that. I could actually see that happening. And being the non-Apple person, on this, on this show, I'm not anti-Apple at all. I just don't have any Apple devices that I use currently. I absolutely agree with Apple. In my opinion, they don't create new stuff all that often, but they will perfect somebody else's joint.
Like everything, yeah,
And they will just get it right. And it's just like, okay,
Apple makes
let me
everything better.
let me dabble my little apple in this, and now y'all see how you like it. And they just take it to the next level.
The
So
Apple effect,
you will get,
if you will.
It's like all the time, like Terrance and I on other shows, we have talked about like that Apple fanboy versus the Android fanboy, or just the Microsoft fanboy, and we never understand. It's like, you like what you want, you like what you like. Why do you have to define yourself by what somebody else thinks about a product that they did like, or just or like or don't like? I don't get that. But there would be people who would be like, no, Apple did this. It's like, well, no, Android did it first, or Microsoft did it first. It's like, well, what difference does it make? Apple is definitely killing it.
Apple did it best. Well, you'll always be able to say Apple did it best.
So yeah, I do agree with that. When Apple gets in it, they get in it, and it tends to be pretty good. Usually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just real quick, just to kind of kind of do an overview real fast. One of the other, in addition to that issue, which once more people adopt, it may be kind of hard to kind of pinpoint one person who may be having some connection issues, because like I said, right now it's so new, there's only like a handful of people, so they're easy to spot out. But once you get thousands of people, that may be similar to sitting in an actual courtside game, right? The other only issue that he kind of noted was the resolution, because with the cameras, I think they mentioned like one of the cameras was like $6,000, another one was like $11,000 to actually play this, but that's not the same type of resolution that people are used to when you're actually sitting at home in front of your 4K television.
That's the problem with 4K.
Right. But yeah, right. But as more of these cameras, they get a little bit better with the camera technology, I can see that not being an issue. So those are kind of the negatives. The positive thing was he mentioned was, you get to see, you get to watch the experience from different angles that you never even saw, because they've got one of these cameras sitting at the announcer's table. So you see what the announcers are seeing. You see, at the different, and backboards. So they got the cameras behind the backboard. So, normally we're used to either looking left or looking right if we're sitting at courtside or if we're watching TV, but the ability to be able to see it live from the backboard, somebody shooting a three or somebody dunking or whatever the case may be, that may be something interesting. So all that to say, something like this, sports players, sports events, pushing this may be the catalyst for more VR
adaptation. It'll be interesting to see how much they start charging, because it ain't no way in the world I'm gonna be a courtside season ticket holder and y'all giving this shit, excuse my language, away for free in the metaverse. You know what I mean? Right now it's free, but they gonna have to figure out some sort of revenue model for this, because there's absolutely no way you can continue to let people do this for free while people are paying thousands of dollars for courtside seats in real life.
Well, they
First
mentioned
game might be free just to get you hooked to it, but
Right.
they will absolutely charge for this, because the problem of the sports teams right now is that they can either not play enough games. Like the NFL is like, if we could just play every week for 52 weeks, if they could figure out a way to physically make that happen for their players, there's no question that they wouldn't do it, because as long as we're making money, why not do that? So they want to, we can only go to maybe 17, maybe 18 games. Well, the stadiums, we can only build them so large. We can only get so many people in the games. Well, how can we make more money? Okay, well, let's give them this virtual experience. And they're absolutely going to charge for that. So there's no question in my mind.
and they may do a different type of experience, because there's nothing like being in person. So that'll always be the top tier thing to do, is see it live in person. But you could do with VR, they kind of outline it in the article where they talk about a different type of experience, to where, if you pay a certain amount, you get like a VIP level, a box level experience. And then if you pay for a certain, even higher than that, you may get to actually watch it sitting next to a sports celebrity. Now, of course, they're not sitting next to you, but they are in the same area, to where in this lobby. Right, in the metaverse, right, to where you're actually sitting next to this person. So that's something that you can't necessarily get going to an actual live event, unless you get the right
I don't care. I have priced out season tickets before. They are not cheap,
Right.
and y'all need to be charging these fools something commensurate with what I'm paying to sit on that floor. I don't care. Sorry, not sorry.